All right, now we get started on the fun stuff. So we're gonna start working on the bodywork section of the Porsche build. And the first thing that we really need to do is, there's a few dents in the roof. And if you look here, you can see that I've got them just kind of marked where somebody had tried to pull it out before and they drilled a hole and then just filled it full of Bondo. I mean, this is like, I don't know, maybe 1/4, 3/8 of an inch deep. And then there's some little hail dents and things like that all over the car. So we need to get those out. I've gone ahead and already pulled some of the trim off the window in preparation for doing body work. But we're gonna go ahead and try and get these dents out. I've picked up some new toys to play with. So let's work on seeing if we can make this thing look a little bit nicer. I picked up one of these stud welder kits for dent repair, where it just welds on a little like brass or copper, probably copper stud, and then use a slide hammer to pull out these dents. I've never owned one. I've always wanted to try one. Let's get some of the paint off of one of these dents and see how it works. I think the first thing we should do is just get some of the paint off here and see if we can knock out one of these little dents here. Why don't we try that little one first? Okay, now that the paint's cleaned off there, you can really see that dent. And laying a straight edge, hopefully you can see that there's just like maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so, maybe a little bit more right there. We're gonna weld one of those little studs right in the center of that and see if we can pull that little dent out. Okay, so we've got my little stud welder kit. I'm get one of these out here. Put one of these little studs down in the end, and I think you just hold it right over the center and press down, and there's a stud welded to it. And we'll take our slide hammer. Okay. Now, fingers crossed. Looks like it moved it a little. Check that out. That pulled that thing all the way out. That is so cool. All right, only about 50 more of these little dents to go. Okay, so it looks like still got a little bit of a low spot right there, right there, and maybe right there, but it's not bad. It's like a 1/16 of an inch. So I may just try and put, you know, one little stud there and there, pop those out a little bit, and then that should pretty much take care of that. Just a little skim coat of filler and it'll be good as new. You know, sometimes I wish I never got started on something. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this really well, but every one of these shiny spots is a low spot on the car. So when I start blocking it out with, like, you know, an 18-inch block, it starts revealing some of these just slight imperfections. And unfortunately, I can't just leave it be and call it good enough. So I'm going to end up having to block the whole car down and get it just absolutely flat. So when I'm done, everything should look like this rather than this. All right, more work to do. Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of spot putty on here. I'm just gonna sand that, let that dry, and then sand it off smooth, and then pretty much the roof will be done. I will go ahead and just prime the whole thing with like a 2K primer, and then block sand it out, and then this part will be done, and then we get to work on the rest of the car. So you can see all the little low spots on this door alone. And again, this looks bad, but this is just barely, these are just tiny little low spots. And probably 99% of this is gonna get sanded off. But so fast forward about 3 weeks, and we're back in Colorado now. Had kind of like a whirlwind trip in South Carolina, then to Garden City, Kansas, then back to South Carolina again, and like spent one night in my bed in the last 5 weeks. But I'm back at home, at least for a few days, and want to get to work on the Porsche. Now I've got the car in the garage, and you can see I've had a lot of work done on it, just kind of disassembling the car. Got the 924 logo off of there. I do have another one coming for that, so we'll get that back on. And then just filling in all the little dings and dents, and you saw most of that spot putty that was on there is gone, and the hood's off. We're gonna get it re-primed and painted, so get that done. So I think the next step is just finishing up some light sanding on the car, and then I'm gonna pull the hatch off and some of the trim, and hopefully get this thing ready for primer here today. Let's get started. Alright guys, so I've got the car all taped up as you can see and wiped it down with the tack rag, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't go ahead and get it in primer. So let's wet the floor down to keep dust down and get started priming it. So it's the next day and the primer is all dry, as you can see, and I've noticed a couple of little spots on it that I'm going to have to touch up, and I think that's kind of the normal, is that, you know, once you get it all in one color, that you can see there's a couple of little things where there's a dent or a little imperfection that I want to figure out. But I'm going to go ahead and flat sand this with 400, fill in a couple of the little minor imperfections, re-prime it, and then plan to paint it maybe here tomorrow. So I've got the first coat of primer all blocked out, and there's a couple of little imperfections that we've got to fill in. So we'll blow it all off, tack it off, put another coat of primer on it, block it, prime, block, you know, until this thing is as good as I can get it. And then we will go ahead and wet the floor down and get started on putting some color on it. but that's going to have to wait until next time. If you like the kind of things that we're doing here on AutoAnatomy, make sure that you click on that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to let you know when new videos come out. And don't forget to check the description and pick up some cool AutoAnatomy merch. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you later.